Hi everyone, Steve Mostyn. Welcome to this weekly roundup as we move into strategies and models for leading change. And as we lead into this, also there is a live session tomorrow, so I don't want to cover some of the great questions on that. I want to position the concept of change in a slightly different way to get you thinking a little bit differently around your role as a leader. And I particularly want to start with a great comment this week from Mukesh Kamari, who said, I'm not in a leadership position at the moment. And I thought, well, that's a very interesting conclusion. Leadership is an activity, not necessarily a role. And we spend a lot of time confusing authority and leadership. So leadership versus authority is something I think you have to be very clear of in your own minds, and also your own capacity to exercise leadership. If we think that leadership is not the same as authority, I think that's a good starting point. And how you decide to lead and when you choose to lead is so important. So my first reflection for you is a simple question, maybe one for your journal. How does change happen in your organization? It's worth really thinking about that, and it's often reactive. It can be reactive to situations in the marketplace. It can be reactions to a global crisis or health crisis that we're working with right now, or it can be something more informed and strategic, like regular strategic reviews, scenario planning. But I first want you to consider, how does change happen in your organization, and what's your role in that? What's your role in leading the change for your particular department or team? Because you'll notice when you start to lead and exercise leadership, some people will oppose your views and other people will support your views, but be very critical on that feedback you get around those who are giving very positive feedback to you. Because sometimes in moments of distress, the higher the distress, the greater people are hoping for you to create some sort of deliverance for them. So be careful of feedback in terms of you as a leader and your role in change. But a fundamental concept I want to get across as we move into this change idea, and it links into earlier concepts of dance floor and balcony, is the idea of, are we talking about a technical change or are we talking about an adaptive change? And the distinction between the two, I think, is really important for you to think about. The metaphor that I quite like to use is that if someone unfortunately needs heart surgery, one of the most replicated and safe interventions now is a stent procedure in the heart. That for me is a kind of technical solution to a technical problem. The biggest adaptive change is that that patient get asked to change their lifestyle. Exercise more, smoke less, drink less, eat healthy. And the stats are quite interesting. Around 70% of people don't make those adaptive changes. So when I'm talking about the distinction between adaptive and technical, I'm talking about the social, cultural, behavioral dynamics in change, as opposed to technical. We already know how to do it. So first thing for you to think about is, are you leading or being asked to lead a technical or an adaptive change? And actually, technical ones, we know how to do them. And so they should be more straightforward. We're just replicating the concepts there. The other thing I want to get across in this idea of change and your role in it is that I actually don't think people resist change, but they do resist loss. But we talk all the time as senior leaders around change and about the excitement of change. And it's great when you're at the front leading that change, but it's not so great if you're on the receiving end. But again, I don't think people resist change per se. How many people do you know who would tear up a winning lottery ticket? Yet people resist loss. If you can think about leaders resisting losses, it's a different way to think about it. And I'm always enthused by your response to my small invitations to experiment. But I'm thinking back to workshop I ran with a leadership group thinking about their stakeholders. And I want to just read out the kind of categories for you. It's a workshop where you map out different stakeholders and their relationship to the issue. So first of all, on the left-hand column, you write the various stakeholders. That could be the sales team, it could be a supply team, it could be IT, whatever it is. The next column is the relationship they have to the change that you are leading. Again, do this in workshop format by the core change team. You'll get some rich dialogue. And then what's the outcome you want that stakeholder to achieve? And then the third column, what losses do you imagine they will take as a result of this change? So it's just a different way of people do not resist change, they resist loss. And that's the piece I want you to think about. If you want to read further on this, this is really developed from the excellent work of Heifetz, Grashow, Marty Linsky. So have a look at the practice of adaptive leadership. In there are some great tools. And just think, as you're approaching the assignments that will be set out in this Leading Change, the biggest diagnostic you have to do is this an adaptive or is this a technical change? And enjoy that. Challenge yourselves, challenge me, have fun with it, and we'll see you next week and see many of you on the live session tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.